What's going on, everybody? It is your boy Chris, man. We are here at the Work Hard, Play Harder podcast. It is Tuesday, November 12th, 2024. My name is Chris Drummond. I'm a freelance sports reporter based out of Minnesota here. I'm also in sales and proprietor of this podcast, Work Hard, Play Harder, where I bring individuals on to talk about their why and get to know them outside of their occupation. I got a special guest that's going to be coming on with me today. Her name is Nicole Weaving. She is based out of Toledo, Ohio. She is on the BCSN network as a sports anchor slash MMJ. She's also a Syracuse grad, and she's somebody who is going to hop on here and talk about her why of getting into sports journalism. Also, we're going to get to know her outside of her occupation, ask her some favorite questions from one reporter to another. So, without any further ado, I introduce to you the lovely and the talented Nicole Weaving. Hello, Nicole. How you doing?
How are you?
I'm doing good. It's a pleasure to see you. You look lovely this morning. Just wanted to say that.
Thank
Uh,
you.
you're very welcome. Thank you for hopping on my podcast. Work hard, play harder. I want to ask you, how is your week starting off?
My week has been good. Actually, Monday and Tuesdays are my days off, but midweek Maction is back. So Toledo football will be playing tonight, and I'm excited to go back to the Glass Bowl and cover that game tonight, even though it is my day off, but it's a good reason to work on my day off.
Absolutely. Get to go watch some football and cover that. That's amazing. That's like a dream for a sports reporter. So that's awesome. I want to reiterate to you why I wanted to have you on here on my podcast before I start like peppering you with all these questions. Um, so you're a sports reporter based, and your station is BCSN, if I'm not mistaken. You're based out of Toledo, Ohio, as you already said, and I'm a sports reporter down here in Minnesota. I've been sports reporting for the past 6, 7 years, combination of Atlanta, Georgia, and now Minnesota as well. I made the decision to go freelance, which to me has been amazing with that decision for sure. But I love talking to reporters about their why. The reason being is we don't get a chance to sit down like this and talk amongst each other about our stories of how we came into the industry. And everybody's story is unique and different and worth telling. And you definitely have a story that's worth telling. And we're so used to going to get the story, right? And cover the story. So I wanted to make a platform to where people can tell their stories also, that's storytellers.
Yes. No, I'm excited.
Absolutely. So my first question to you is the same as it is with everybody that I have on here, and that is, what is your why? What is your why of getting into sports journalism? Did you have any role models growing up? Did you have any inspiration that you wanted to kind of model your career after? If I'm not mistaken, doing my homework, you grew up in New Jersey. If I'm not mistaken, right?
That is true. I grew up in New Jersey and I grew up a Jets fan. So I guess whenever I get asked the question about role models, I don't have that particular person. I didn't watch someone on TV and be like, I want to be them. I mean, yes, I saw many women that thrived as like sideline reporters. So of course, like look, striving to be like an Erin Andrews or like a Lisa Salter was there, but it wasn't a particular like I have to follow their path. I have to do the exact same thing. It was just growing up around sports, whether that was playing them, I was a very big lacrosse player, to just being a huge Jets fan growing up. And then my love of football spreading to the entire NFL. And just, I don't know, I kind of liked being that girl that actually like knew what was going on in the hello?
No, you good.
Knew what was going on. That was interesting. Knew what was going on. Do you want me to restart or like should I just keep going?
No, no, keep going. We
Okay.
good.
I kind of liked being the girl that just knew what was going on in the football game.
Hmm.
And when I got to high school, my mom had helped find a sports broadcasting camp run by Bruce Beck and Ian Eagle. And that really like opened my eyes to all the different ways that kind of sports broadcasting exists. You know, we got to
Hmm.
first year we got to meet people, tons of different types of people in the industry, and get those kind of firsthand experiences of reading a prompter, interviewing people on camera. And then the second year kind of took a step up where you got to do your first sports cast. And yeah, just from the feedback I got there, combined with the love that I found in the industry from attending that camp, I just knew in that moment that that was what I wanted to do. And then attended Syracuse University, and that was where I really honed my craft through Citrus TV as well as other experiences to find out that like sports reporting is my love. So my why is truthfully this concept of I've always been an extrovert. I've always been someone that loves to talk to people. And I found kind of, I feel like an industry where I feel like I don't work a single day in my life because I just get to go out and meet people and tell their stories just by talking to them and getting to know them. And that's my favorite way to find stories as well, is just by having a conversation and being like, did you know that this person did this? Or did you know that this person's battled this? And then you can turn that into a much more meaningful story just through the conversations that you have. So yeah, it's fun. Don't get me wrong. I mean, being at football games, hell, being at high school games, I love it. I just love being around sports, being able to talk about sports, but it's more the storytelling and the conversations and the getting to know people. And the cool part about this
Absolutely.
job is it takes you different places too. So I got to do it in Nebraska. Now I do it in Toledo.
Absolutely. No question about that. Definitely take you places. You're doing all kinds of events and stories. Every day is different, which is amazing as well.
Yeah.
No 2 days are the same. So I love that. I do love that. You mentioned it. You went to Syracuse University, so you're an Orangeman alum. Talk to me about, were there any other schools that could have persuaded you from going to Syracuse?
Yes, there definitely was. Syracuse actually wasn't my first choice, which sometimes surprises people, but coming out of high school, I felt that I wanted a school that sort of like had intellectually matched where I was at. So Northwestern was actually my first
Oh
choice.
yeah.
But
Okay.
I actually had applied early decision there. And I just didn't get in, which is fine because, I feel like things are meant to happen where they're meant to happen. And
Sure.
Northwestern in itself is a very acclaimed, obviously, journalism school as well.
Yep.
However, I have felt, and just from seeing people and meeting people in the industry, more sports people come out of, like an Arizona State or a Syracuse or this versus coming out of Northwestern. I'm not saying that you can't have great sports opportunities at Northwestern. Absolutely.
Oh
It's a Big
yeah.
Ten school. They're there.
Absolutely.
But obviously the infrastructure, I feel like between Citrus TV, between this Newhouse Sports Media Center and all of those are really just put in place to set you on a path to success in sports, and in sports broadcasting. So I truly felt like it worked out the way that it was supposed to. And I wouldn't have traded my time at Syracuse for anything. So,
Absolutely. So I ended up going to Kennesaw State University, which is in Atlanta. But one of the schools that was on my mind was Syracuse. My dad lives in upstate New York, so he's very close to Syracuse. So I was like, I'm gonna have family close by, but money wise, it just not factor in. As you
oh
know,
yeah,
it being a private school, yeah, it's just tough. But I do understand what you're saying about just the opportunities, because there's really nothing in Syracuse outside of that university. I mean, there's some things, but there's just not a whole lot. Northwestern, that's Chicago. So Chicago's big time. There's a big time place. Mizzou is another school, NBC affiliate,
yes,
another great school for journalism. So I'm happy you went to Syracuse, because there's a lot of great alum that
yeah.
come out of Syracuse for sure. So that's amazing.
And that's definitely one of my favorite parts too of having attended there was like the amount of people that got to come back and you got to meet and network with just even through the entirety of my college career, from like people that were in sports or in local sports to like, I met Beth Mowens twice, got to work with her once and got to just like meet her, met Dick Stockton, met Anish Shroff, met like all these people that are in the Newhouse Network that, got to go to a Bob Costas off the record chat, like things like that. Mike Tirico just like stops by in your classroom. So there definitely is
Yeah.
something to be said about the Newhouse Network is real, for sure. I know people get think that we can be a little snooty or braggadocious about it, but it's real. And, Orange, we stick together and you get to meet some cool people that way for sure.
Absolutely. You said the name that came to my mind, which was Mike Tirico. I definitely knew about him going to Syracuse as well. So yes, definitely big time names. Have a lot of love for that school for sure. I want to ask you some favorite questions. So you just give me the 411 off the rip based upon these favorite questions. Are you with me?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, here we go. Favorite meal, Nicole, you like to cook?
My favorite meal that I like to cook is tuna noodle casserole. I know that's weird. It's like a meal from like the 50s. And it's not very hard to cook. It's just throwing a whole bunch of things in a casserole dish and baking it. But it's definitely
Mhm,
that warm winter meal. I mean, I'll eat it any time of the year, but it's definitely that
mhm.
warm winter meal that like I can eat for 3 days straight and never get sick of it. So I used to request it for my birthday every year for my mom, and now I just make it myself.
I love it. Fun fact here: never had tuna in my life. Never have tried tuna, but I'm sure that is a wonderful dish if you ever get the balls to try tuna
Hey,
for
it's not
sure.
going to be everyone's cup of tea, I can tell you that.
Okay. I appreciate you saying that too, by the way. Okay, that's what's up. I'm a huge taco person because us reporters are always on the go. I like to whip something up fast. Tacos is great, so I love
Can't
tacos.
go wrong.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Favorite concert you've ever attended?
Ooh, see, I'm more of a Broadway showgirl than a concert goer. I actually like this year attended like two concerts this year, which I think was more than I've attended in the past like 5 years. So
Wow.
I haven't gone to a ton of concerts. I'll say that. I'm definitely more of like, if you ask my favorite Broadway show, that would be a tough decision. But going
Mhm.
the concert route, from my childhood, I definitely went and saw Hannah Montana meet Miley Cyrus as like one of my first concerts. And that
Right.
pretty, like burned into my brain as one of the more cool concert experiences that I've ever had. Just because it was like so early on and I was just so
Mhm.
impressed with everything that I was seeing. Plus, like, I think the Jonas Brothers were on that tour too. So it kind of like was everything that like a kid growing
Hmm.
up in the Disney Channel era could have wanted.
Sure.
Definitely also saw like Taylor Swift's first couple. I think I saw her Red tour and her Fearless tour. So I would say like more the concerts from my childhood. Not that I haven't been to any cool ones. I went to Avril Lavigne this year, was like second row and got to catch a towel and a t-shirt and see her super up close. And I knew so many of her songs. So like that was super cool too. I just think each concert's very unique, but I don't know, that first one, I feel like is really burned into the brain of like, as a kid, you're like, this is amazing. This person's actually real and they're right in front of me. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I totally understand that. I think I can't remember my first concert, but I know one of my favorite ones to go to was Post Malone.
oh,
No question. Post Malone, Posty was definitely one of my favorites, for sure. And I also did go to a Taylor Swift one, her 1989 tour, when she had that one. That was pretty good. That's one of my favorite albums of hers. I'm not a Swiftie by any means, but I definitely do appreciate her music and talent very well, very much. Okay.
same. I
I'm
would
with
I
you
would
on
put
that.
myself in that same bucket.
I love that. Favorite place you've ever traveled to?
Ooh, I've traveled to a lot, I will say. I've been very fortunate in that way, because my family traveled a lot, and then I got to study abroad 3 times over the course of high school and college. So,
Okay, now. All right.
ooh, that's a tough question. Probably Patagonia. That was like a really unique
Hmm.
experience.
Where is
So
that?
I studied abroad in my longest study abroad was doing 6 months in South America, where I started in Ecuador and then lived in Santiago, Chile for the majority of my time. Did a lot of traveling in that area as well. I mean, I've been to Machu Picchu, which was amazing, don't get me wrong, and like Mendoza, Argentina. I feel like it's like a hidden gem, but it's kind of a wine country where you just get to like bike around and see beautiful things.
I'm with that.
So
I
that was
like that.
also really cool. But I guess Patagonia just stands out because I'd never been camping in my whole life. And one of the girls in my group was just like, let's go hike the W, which is the easier of the two. There's like an 8 day one and then like a 3 or 4 day one. And like there's no cell service. You're just like off the beaten path. I mean, on a safety path, like you know where you're going. And there's a lot of people around. But in the
Sure.
concept of you are just like disconnected from the world with some of the most beautiful views you've ever seen. So it's right at the like bottom tip of Argentina and Chile. You have to take a boat to get there. Like it really is just like reserved off in these mountains, but it was just such a different experience of anything I've ever done before in my whole life. With camping, we made really cool friends along the way and just I mean, the views were like beyond immaculate. So it's definitely something I would like love to go back and just do again, just to be like, because I mean, being surrounded by nature in that way was just probably one of the coolest things that I've ever done. But that was really hard to pick I've been on some really cool trips. So, but that
I
one
love it.
stands out just for its uniqueness.
I absolutely love that. That's definitely a first here on my platform. I've never heard of that city before, but I'm intrigued. I definitely want to go there. It's one of the reasons why I asked that question because I love hearing about different stuff. I also love to travel too. Cabo San Lucas would have been my first choice before I went on my cruise a couple weeks ago. Now it's the Cayman Islands for sure.
Cayman
So
Islands are nice. I have been
yeah,
there when I
yes.
was a kid. So that was a very fun trip. We loved that was like we were mainly island people, but now My blended family is more we go like to random places. So what was it, 2 years ago we went to India and Dubai, which was a really random collection of places to travel, but a very awesome experience still nonetheless to experience something so different. And then we went to Ireland most recently. So that was also very
Got
cool.
you. Got you. Yes. Now that I got my passport for 2024, because I just got it this year, I'm gonna just be traveling as much places I can go because I want to learn different cultures and see different things for sure. So I love that. I love the fact that you travel a lot. We're sports people, so I gotta ask you a sports favorite question. Sports, favorite sport that you like to watch on TV, favorite sport you like to attend in person. They could be the same sport.
So I would say watching on TV either is definitely football or lacrosse. That's pretty easy. That's like definitely the sport I spend the most time watching. Definitely still like a Celtics fan. Don't really watch baseball unless it's like playoff baseball. And just I like to attend that one. Like that wouldn't be my favorite to attend in person, but definitely is one where I will go to a baseball game any day of the week, but I will not sit down and really watch a baseball game any day of the week.
I can respect that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
attending in person is tough because I'm like pretty open, honestly, to watching anything. Like, and I think that that's kind of a strength of this job is because like you have to be like getting excited to go to the high school soccer game or getting excited to go to like the high school swim meet if you're going to be covering it. At least that's my mentality on the job. So I'll watch pretty much anything in person sports wise. I just like I feel like I get most into games when they're like my teams. So like watching Syracuse basketball, I'm all in. Watching the chaos because I'm a Carolina Chaos fan in the PLL. I'm all in. So attending in person, I'll get into most sports, but watching on TV, it's definitely got to be football or lacrosse.
Now you said you were a Celtics fan.
I am, yes.
Oh wow! Now see, I've met Celtics fans all around, but I have not met one from the New Jersey, New York area
So
yet.
there's actually a very particular story about this. So my
Okay.
dad was born in Massachusetts in
Hmm.
like the 60s, late 60s, early 70s. And so they grew up full Boston fans of everything. But at that time, the Patriots were trash and the Jets were amazing. And so when they moved to
Right.
New Jersey when he was like 8 years old, they were like, that was the only one they were like down to switch their allegiance for, which makes sense. I mean, the Celtics were good at that time. I'm pretty sure the Red Sox were
Eh,
they
so
were like
so.
eh. And the
Right.
Bruins obviously have always been very good as well. So
Right.
they that was the only one they were willing to switch their allegiance for is the Jets. Has not panned out since I've been around, obviously, but in the concept of why we're Boston pretty much everything else, but Jets for football, there actually is like a legitimate story to it. And then it's always funny. My other fun side tangent about sports fandoms is that baseball, I never really picked a team. So I guess you could say that I'm probably more Red Sox than I am like anything else. However, I grew up with my grandpas both having super strong allegiances, but one being Red Sox and one being Yankees. And obviously they're like huge foes. And so I kind of
Absolutely.
like committed it in my childhood that I was like, I'm not going to pick a fandom because I don't want to disappoint either of my grandpas. Now, one has since passed, but I'm like, that doesn't change anything. I'm not going to just like
Sure.
suddenly like go gung ho on the Yankees just because my one grandpa is still here. So I've never really had a true baseball allegiance, which a lot of people give me crap for. And I took a baseball and American culture class in college, and people were really befuddled by the fact I didn't have a fandom. But that's
Well,
me.
listen, to each his own. And listen, when you have two grandpas that are going up against each other, it's hard to pick a fandom now. I mean, Red Sox and Yankees, that divides households. So,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
how can you disappoint grandpa?
Right. So, I listen, I would have said Padres or said some team off team, like off, I would have said something like off the wall. That's what it been me. But I love that story. I appreciate that story. You got a got a pretty good team there in Ohio that's still undefeated in the NBA as well. That's playing some really good basketball right now. Don't know how far that will take it, but they're playing some really good basketball right now for sure. Last of the favorites. Favorite restaurant that you like to eat at? I'm a huge traveler, Nicole. So when I do pull up in Toledo, which I may, because people have told me you should go and see Toledo, but I also want to go see Cincinnati, Columbus, Cleveland. I want to go see those cities too. As you
Ohio
said.
sneakily drivable. So if you do find your way up here with a car, I will say like that's one of the things I love about Toledo. Very drivable to a lot of other places.
Okay, okay. Well, I would first of all, I would definitely have to say hello to you in person if I ever there, and you're still there for sure. And then obviously, go to a nice food spot. What are some nice food spots there in Toledo?
So I have been kind of seldom at eating out since I've been here, but I'll say depends on the meal, right? Like focaccias is like the standard for brunch, but then you have like Mancy Steakhouse is like your most upscale, like where are
Mm,
you going for that like super fancy date night or you're really trying to impress someone, you're taking them to Mancy Steakhouse, which
hmm.
I thought is really good. Have those like more fave like casual spots kind of. I'm trying to think. Really was impressed with this place, Beirut. It was Lebanese food. Don't always go for Lebanese food, but I'm willing to, jump outside my
Hmm.
box and try something different. And it like was one
Sure.
of those restaurants you would definitely just drive by and have no idea that it was there, but it was
Hmm.
very good. So I don't know. I'm definitely more of like a breakfast girl. I feel like I've eaten out more places breakfast wise. So either
I'm with you on that. Yeah,
focaccia for brunch or I mean, heck, I feel like any breakfast place in the city, you really can't go wrong. So, yeah, I would say
I'm
I
a
don't
huge.
have a favorite place in Toledo per se, but there's just a lot of really good restaurants that, like, depending what you're in the mood for, I'll find you a spot. That's kind of
I
how I
appreciate.
would.
I appreciate that, Nicole. I'm a huge Belgian waffle person, so definitely huge on the waffles. I'm a huge breakfast person as well. But you also mentioned that steakhouse, which I'm definitely big into my steak, especially my sirloin, sorry, and my ribeye. Definitely
Yeah.
big, no question. Okay, I like that. Let's talk about your day to day. As we kind of mentioned it before, your day to day and most journalists' day to day is never the same. It's
Hmm.
always different. It's always changing. The hours. I'm sure you've worked several different kind of shifts. Mainly for sports, though, it's nights and weekends. Predominantly, that's just what we do. That's when sports happens, right? So, talk to me about preparing for your day to day. Each week, going about it. What do you do, and stuff like that.
Yeah, so BCSN is a little bit different, and I'll give a little bit of context to that. So it's a cable sports network as compared to a traditional TV station. However, we are also 13 ABC, like the ABC affiliate for Toledo. We are their sports department as well. So we kind of have dueling responsibilities of we do their sports cast at 11. At 6 o'clock, it's just a VOSOT. But at 11, we'll do a traditional 2:30 sports cast. But then we also have our own show, which airs at 10:30 and is half an hour long every day. So that
Okay.
brings, a lot of unique challenges along because filling 30 minutes isn't easy a lot of days. And sometimes that then requires obviously extra work to go get more stories or to go find more games that are in the area or different ways to have segments or things of that nature. So just as a little bit of preface, that's some of the slightly different things that we deal with on a daily basis in our specific station. But for me, I'm a Wednesday through Sunday person. So it's always funny because I get to Sunday and it's my Friday, but it's everybody's like dreading going back to work, but not me. I'm like, yay, my weekend's here. Um,
Right.
I traditionally would say I don't get into work until about 3:30 on the average. Like sometimes it's earlier than that, sometimes it's later than that, depending on just what's going on in my life. Which I also know is kind of unique because, if you have a true 6 o'clock sportscast to prep, sometimes you have to get in a lot earlier. But
Sure.
for us, with kind of having stuff be delayed, and then also something to note is we air a lot on our networks. Like we will air a lot of high school games on our sports network.
Mhm.
So that actually alleviates sometimes having to go get games super frequently and actually opens more room for storytelling. But the needless to say is that that helps kind of alleviate some of the pressure of sometimes of like, oh my God, I have to be at this one thing because it's like, nope, we might already be airing it. So traditionally, yes, it's like I get in at 3 or 3:30, kind of like check my email, start to look at the rundown. What do we need
Yeah.
more or less of content wise? We are broken up with a 4-person sports team. We're broken up into individual beats for football season. So I'm Toledo
Hmm.
football, as I mentioned, and then we have somebody for Bowling Green, and then people here in Ohio are like so diehard for Ohio State, and then also for Michigan because Toledo is literally on the Michigan border. that we
Sure.
also have designated beats for those teams as well because people care so much. So we run a lot of college football throughout the week. We go get previews, of other teams that are playing. Right now we're in like the football playoffs time, so we're going out to grab like football practices. I shoot our athlete of the week every week, so that's like one of my favorite responsibilities is going out and just
Absolutely.
finding somebody cool to feature, whether that's like from their story or from their accomplishments or kind of their role within a bigger iconic team story.
Mhm.
So that's always been a fun challenge. And I love having the diversity. Like I've made it a big deal that like I'm not just running football players or something. I'm really like getting out there and I want every fall sport to feel represented. So yeah, so my average day I would say is starts at 3:30. I'm off the clock usually by probably around 11:30. Our web process fortunately is not very aggressive, which I'm so appreciative of because
I,
at my last
I
station, I
feel
feel
it.
like I would spend so much time doing web at the end of a night that it kept me there longer than I needed to be. But
Right.
yeah, so it's hard to describe because, like you said, each day is different. Like this coming Wednesday, we have early signing day. I'll be up at 8 in the morning going to get a signing that's happening at a high school that likes to have them before school. So,
Absolutely.
like, great,
Absolutely.
not a morning person at all.
Yep.
But you do it because sports is when like the unique thing I always say about sports is like you have to be there when that's happening, but at least
Right.
it's scheduled. So versus like news where like you have to constantly be making like all the interview arrangements, like sports is like, nope, this is just happening at 8:30, so show up. And you're like, okay, I'll be there. So, like
Mhm.
Wednesday, for example, will be a crazy day. But yeah, my week is pretty routine of Wednesday I anchor and it's usually kind of a more chill day. Thursday, I'm doing athlete of the week and I don't anchor. Friday right now is college football. So I might, high school football, excuse me. So I might get in a little later that day just because we're pretty much just going to get our games, coming back and helping produce the show, um,
Sure.
our football show. Saturday has been college football, but right now with being a MAC school as my predominant beat, we're now in midweek MACtion. So even on Saturdays now, there's not a ton to do, just, monitoring the basketball schedule if there's games to go
Yep.
get for like Toledo basketball and Bowling Green basketball, because we only do that for
Mhm.
football. We don't extend to Michigan and Ohio State for any of the auxiliary sports, just football because of how big it is. And then yeah, and then Sundays are probably more chill days. We'll run some NFL of like the Lions and the Browns because again, those fandoms kind of collect. Same with how we gave a lot of coverage to the Tigers when they made their impressive run this year and did a little bit with the Guardians just because those are the fandoms here. So we give some love in that way. We don't do it for basketball though, I'll say. Always thought that's a little strange. So we've never ran anything like Pistons or Cavs, which especially given how good the Cavs, like you mentioned, are right now, it's kind of
Mhm.
surprising. But
Absolutely. That
but
might change, Nicole. That might change. They keep playing like this.
So I know, seriously. So yeah, so I would say that my day to day, I would say a lot of the time is decently mellow, but there are definitely those busy stretches. And I feel like everyone feels that in this industry. Like I've heard somebody describe it once as this industry is very feast or famine. Like you're either like in it and you have so much going on all the time, or you're
Mhm.
like in a week where you're like, what am I running? Because there is nothing going on this week. So I think that like everyone feels that a bit, but that's certainly something that like, we deal with as well. So yeah, so I kind of have a
Absolutely.
routine within the difference of days. So it's hard to say, but that's my general, which had a lot of side tangents. So my apologies. Kind of a rambler. Oh no. Is it me? Hello? Hey,
Hey, welcome back. I don't know what happened, but we got cut off a little bit, but that's okay. We are good. We're gonna still rock and roll. Um, on here with Nicole Weaving, BCSN sports anchor, MMJ, based out of Toledo, Ohio, on my Work Hard, Play Harder podcast, just discussing about the day-to-day operations. I know for me, like I said, when I was in it, it was the favorite time of the year. I was covering a lot of different stuff from section championships, state championships. I'm sure you do that as well. I want to ask this bonus question because you do both. Do you like to anchor more? Or do you like to be an MMJ more? Because they're two
I like
different
to
positions.
MMJ more. It's
Okay.
probably a surprising answer to most people,
Hmm.
but I really just I love having the camera in my hand. I love shooting. And yeah, I just love being out places. Like I'd rather have a busy day like I did this last Friday where I had to drive to Dayton, grab a state championship volleyball match, drive back and then shoot two high school football games and help with our, nightly operations on a Friday night. So
Hmm.
I'd rather have a day like that, even if they're longer or busier than just be like cooped up writing scripts and then like get out there and anchor. It's just me,
Right. And
a busybody, and I like kind of the busybody of being a reporter.
absolutely. I mean, and listen, you said it. You already said it yourself. You're an extrovert. So you're somebody who likes to be around people. That's some of the best stories that you get when you kind of networking and building those sources as well, going to these events. It's a beautiful thing. It's a great segue though to this next question though is talking about mental health and work-life balance. Sometimes when you get really busy, sometimes we don't put our mental health in the forefront. Sometimes companies don't put our mental health in the forefront, right? You've had colleagues, and I'm sure you've heard these words of burnt out, overworked, underpaid. I've heard them too, and colleagues have dipped out of this, profession to go do something else. Talk to me about how you keep your mental health strong and avoid those things, and also have a work-life balance because you seem very personable to talk to and very easy to talk to and hang out with, but you also seem like a very busy person and loves passionately what she does. So talk to me about that balance and that mental health.
Yeah, so work-life balance has definitely been a learned skill for me. I definitely was that kid in college that did so much that I didn't really value sleep. And then I got into my first industry job, which was, very traditional TV and had like no concept of understanding how to do work-life balance. And I let my whole life just essentially be work, all the time. And so getting into this job, I knew that that was something different that I wanted to embrace. And actually, and I know that this is a luxury, but I got to, it sounds weird to say, but I spent some time unemployed in between my Nebraska stint and starting in Toledo. And I know that that's actually, as I've been finding out, increasingly more common with people in TV, just because
Mhm.
it's really, really hard to perfectly align that like end of contract, getting a new job that you actually
Right.
want. Like, so people
Mhm.
do actually, it's more common than not that I've found out to spend some time unemployed. But during that time, I really did a lot of soul searching with myself to find out like what are the things that I like to do? What are those areas of life that I want to prioritize? So for me, that became like fitness, that became like going to church more regularly. And those are the kind of things that I've held on to since I've started this Toledo job to really keep myself with that work-life balance of being like nothing in my life should be more important than these things that I've come to value so much. So I'm an Orange Theory girl. If I'm not going to Orange Theory 3 or 4 times a week before I go to work, then, we have to have a question with ourselves of like, what are we doing? Are we just overtired and like we need that sleep and so it's okay? Or is it, just not being motivated? What is it? So I'm constantly like having conversations with myself to check in. But I will say this job has very much afforded me a much better work-life balance. I think the
Sure.
sense, and I'm been extremely grateful for that because we're a four-person sports team. I rarely ever will get called in on my days off. I literally
Love
can't
it.
tell you the last time I've ever gotten called in on my days off. So anytime I'm working on a day off, it's my own doing.
Hmm.
But I'm never expected to potentially be like, "Hey, we're having a busy Tuesday. Can you come in?" Like, nope, they'll handle it, or who's ever working will handle it. And that's been a huge plus, especially because I'm actually in a long distance relationship as well. So being able to have that, certainty in my days off allows me to go travel to see him or he'll travel to see me. And then Just the sense of, yeah, not really needing to be at work until 3:30 unless there's designated shoots earlier. Like that's a lot of time in the morning and a lot of time to like
Yeah,
actually get stuff done. Um,
absolutely.
so I've definitely found myself in a good routine of I probably sleep in later than the average adult does, but that's because I feel like I go to sleep later than the average adult does. So my hours are a little screwy that way. But, from essentially noon until like 11 to noon until 3 o'clock, I have the whole day to really like do what I need to do. And I feel like that just freedom has been very liberating in being able to maintain a work-life balance. So if I need those days where I'm just like, I worked so much, I need to just be a couch potato and really not move all morning long.
Absolutely.
Like
Yeah.
that luxury is there. And then also like on the days where I'm like, you know what, I need to be really productive and getting laundry and food shopping and, those adult things. But then also I want to get my workout in and I want to, meet a friend for coffee. I just feel a sense of having more time. And maybe that existed in my first job, but it didn't feel that way. So my mental health definitely like wasn't in as good of a spot because I constantly felt busy or felt pressure. Now, granted, beyond being a traditional TV station, I was also doing news a bit in my last station. And I think news is a completely its own beast, 100%. Like the
Without question.
stress
Yes.
of story finding every day and having to execute that is its own animal. And I would do it again if I had to, but I certainly wouldn't choose to just because I do feel like the more people I know that experience burnout and such come from the news industry. Some of my friends are still in it and I chat with them all the time and they're like, damn, election day wiped me, and I did my fair share of election days as well, but um and they were stressful and they were long days too. So I get it. And yeah, so I would say right now I feel more content with my life than I really feel like I've felt in a really long time. That still is not to say that I foresee exactly Toledo being my forever home. This industry is a lot about moving and trying different
It
places
is. Yep.
until you find those situations that either feel perfect or that city you want to settle down in, or, whatever your answer is that makes you happy. Which I think is funny because so few people talk about happiness in this industry. It's always like achieve, achieve, achieve. And if I don't get to a top 15 market, then I failed. But it's like, no, if
Right.
you just find a TV station you're happy at and you feel like you're valued and you're being paid okay and you like the city, like that can be good enough.
That's it.
um,
That's
and
it.
and so I would say yes, where I'm at right now with the work-life balance, having those values in my life of like making sure my friends and family are a better priority, those things that I like to do for me, has made me feel a lot happier with my mental health. And so I feel like this opportunity has been very, yeah, like liberating in that way, and just that I've been able to really have my mental health in a much better space. So
I love it. I do. And Nicole, that's a terrific answer. And listen, we learn through this industry by going through things. Best teacher in life is experience. Uh,
absolutely.
and no question about that. So for you to be able to recognize once you got to this market and said, you know what, there's some changes that I want to make. There's some boundaries that I want to set. There's some things or that I want to obtain that I want to do on a daily basis. And if I'm not doing that, I have to have a conversation with myself or what's going on with me and why am I not attaining those goals, right? So I can respect that. I love that, but it's the question worth asking too, because a lot of the times you get people that graduate. You get people that may be a little bit seasoned, like as far as age goes, that's out of college, and people see you on TV. They're like, "Wow, look at the wonderful girl that's on TV, that's reporting, doing what she loves to do." But Nicole, they don't understand the behind the scenes of what you do, right? To prepare yourself to get ready, like you were talking about, like, oh, I gotta have these goals, or I got to be able to get this together as far as a sports show. I got to drive here, drive there. I mean, they don't see that. They just see the finished product, right? So the reason why I had this podcast done is the A side and B side. The A side is what you just talked about. Us going and being a pillar for our communities, being an advocate for the people, storytelling, telling stories that's never been told, and doing what we love to do passionate. Because this is a wonderful business to do that in, and we love it. But the B side is that sometimes, like you just stated, you're in a long distance relationship. This job moves you. And long distance relationships are not easy. Family wise, sometimes you miss family events. Sometimes you miss holidays. You work on holidays, so you miss holidays with the family. Sometimes you're doing stories that you really don't want to do, that you're really not like 100% on, but you still do them because it's part of the job. So people need to know about the A side and B side before they make a decisive decision on whether to come into this industry. It's a beautiful industry to
Yes.
be in, but you gotta do it for the right reasons, and that's why I like that podcast like this.
Oh yeah, I tell people all the time. I love mentoring young people. And obviously with Syracuse, like I get connected with a lot of people in different ways at different times. And I always tell people like, I can be a very truthful person and sometimes the truth is harsh. But when I talk to people about this industry, I'm like, you need to know what you're walking into. And like, I won't hold back on like, if you're going to try for sports, especially like if you're not walking in open-minded of like, I will move anywhere for that first job, you're probably not even going to be like set for this industry because
Right.
like, yes, things have changed in terms of now being in a 50 to 100 market right out of school seems to be attainable if you're good. You know what I mean? That wasn't the way it was when I graduated, and that wasn't even that long ago. I graduated in 2020. I mean, granted, the pandemic was its own other beast,
Mhm.
graduating into the pandemic in a sports role.
Absolutely. Yep. Yep.
But
No doubt.
but certainly like that concept of like being open-minded to moving anywhere, like it's real. And if you're not going to have that, like you're not going to be able to thrive. And yeah, you have to explain to family, like, I'm not going to be around on weekends. I'm not going to be able to come to every holiday. Again, another thing that I'll say, like, we have a workaround method to which we can pre-produce some of our shows on holidays. So like we have always gotten holidays, which is really nice here. Like I will say that's another like work-life
That is
luxury
incredible.
at
That's incredible.
like Thanksgiving, I'm going home Wednesday and Thursday. You know what I mean? I have to be back by Friday because we got a lot of stuff going on Black Friday, but at least like I'm guaranteed those 2 days. And theoretically, it could be 4 days, but of course, Toledo's playing Akron on Tuesday because go midweek Maction. So I personally
Right.
want to be at that game,
Sure. Sure.
and stuff like that. So, um, but in the concept of like you have to be able to have those hard conversations with the people that you love, but then also know like you still have to find that balance to be you. And that's something that I felt like I lost, like even like keeping touch with my friends, keeping touch with my family. I was so just ingrained in the job, ingrained in my life that I had had in Nebraska, which wasn't a bad thing. I had awesome friends in Nebraska and I loved what I was doing there, and it really like solidified how much I love local TV. But at the same time, like it came with a cost, that's for sure. And
Sure.
like during that unemployment time is when I really had to rebuild a lot of my relationships and tell people like I'm still going to do this because this is what I love to do. And I am wholeheartedly grateful that you are supportive of my journey of like wanting to be in TV, knowing that requires me moving and not probably ever living in New Jersey because everyone in my life lives in New Jersey or in the Northwest or Northeast. And
Sure.
pretty much saying to them like it's not going to be easy, but like what I did in Nebraska I'm not doing again, in the sense of like that's not how I'm approaching life, that's not how I'm like letting work dictate everything for me. And I think we'd be
Right.
lying if we said that all TV people have gone through at some point or another this like crisis of, do I want to be a normal person? Do I want to just have
Oh
weekends
yeah.
off and like be
Absolutely.
around my family and friends? Like I've had conversations with the most dedicated of my like girlfriends or guy friends in this industry who I'd like could never see leaving, but they're like, there are moments I just want to be around my family and be able to go to like that
Right.
family dinner on Saturday nights.
Right.
Like I've been there. So I think everybody goes through it because it's unique, but if you truly love it, like you'll find your ways. And then you just got to find your boundaries, like you were saying, your boundaries and your balance to be able to say, like, there are certain things I am putting my foot down for. Or I'm just saying, like, hey, I'm making this work with somebody coming into town or something. So
Absolutely. And I'm glad you have that mindset. Because most people that graduate that come right into it, they're afraid to do that. And I try to encourage my young boys and my young girls to be able to be like, okay, look, setting boundaries is not something you should be afraid of. You should always have boundaries for any job. It's not just journalism, but any job in general. You should have some boundaries. Now, you do know what you're walking into, though. I do understand that, but you still got to have some boundaries because it has to be a give and take with businesses. And if good businesses and good bosses will have that open door policy where you can have that talk. So I always just tell them to make sure that you do have boundaries that are, they're not outrageous boundaries, but at the same time, just you have to have those before you step into any kind of journalism field because you do have some companies, unfortunately, that will take advantage, and that will, if you allow them to. they will take advantage, no question. So
Well, and the big one I think that is like a misnomer in this industry is like, don't be afraid to take PTO. It's there for a reason. Like, I think that like something that I've like found is that the amount of TV people who get to, excuse me, this point in the year, November, December, and just have to burn weeks randomly because they've spent none of their PTO. I'm
right.
just like, no, plan some things. Go find people that matter and be in like, or moments that matter in your life and just say, this has got to be bigger than work. You know, like I would have loved to have been at Toledo's NIU game. Originally, that was supposed to be slated as the potential, preview to the MAC championship. But no,
Mm-hmm.
my cousin's getting married that day. So me traveling to an away game just to cover Toledo was never going to be more important than watching my cousin get married.
Right.
Or, these like when my family went to Ireland, that took almost all of my PTO. I only get 10 days a year. And
Sure. Yep.
um that took probably 7 of the 10. So it was a lot, but it was like, no, if my family is planning a trip to Ireland and honestly footing the bill, I'm like, I'm not going to turn that down. I'm
You
not
better
going
not.
to turn down going to Ireland. So,
You be
you
crazy
know,
to do something like that, Nicole. You be crazy.
so I tell people all the time, like, you can't be like, and again, it has to be reasonable, right? You can't be like sitting here and expecting you're taking a whole week during Christmas. You can't sit here
Right.
and expecting that you're going to get days off during state
Right.
basketball. Like,
Right.
you know those important weeks of the year and you don't abuse those. But like, if it's any other week of the year, like, be okay with occasionally missing something if it
Mm-hmm.
means like being there for something that is more important in your personal life. Like,
And have bosses too.
show up
Have
on
bosses
those
that
important
accept
days.
that for
And they have,
sure.
like,
Have
truthfully, unless you're like completely abandoning the team, like, what are they supposed to say? Like, you can't take your PTO, like, you're given it. And so I feel like
right.
that's something that, again, a learned lesson for myself. I feel like I never took PTO in Nebraska. And now I'm like, no, I designate my PTO like at the beginning of the year, essentially. And I'm like, I know this weekend I need to take it. I know this weekend. And that's again, like, if you plan early enough, your boss definitely can't say no. It's when you have to pull last second PTO that they're like, what the heck? But
Right. Right.
if
Right.
you're a planner and efficient, like, and you say like, nope, I know this weekend's going to be my friend's birthday and we're doing a big thing, so I need to be there for that. Like, be there.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. Wanted to mention this because you said the word before, both sides. For people when I do post this and they do watch this conversation that we're having, both sides is voice over sound on tape. For those of you that don't know what voice side is, because some people may be like, "Oh, I do not know what that is," but I
I
just
wasn't
want
sure how technical into media this podcast was, and I'm like, is Vosak gonna fly as a known word
right,
to
because
the audience?
listen. I break it down for people who are tech savvy, but also tech illiterate as well. So we break it down both ways, and I'm kind of both myself, to be honest with you. I know some things, but there's some things I don't know. So that's just the way it is. We have came to the portion of the podcast now to where we're doing this or that. It's an interactive game that I do with all my guests here on the Work Hard Play Harder podcast, where I throw some things at you and you get to choose this or that. So, Nicole, I ask you, are you ready?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay, here we go. We've been vibing all conversation long. So, this first question is going to be good. Which place, if you had to choose, would you go to? Popeyes or KFC?
Oh man, I'm just not a fast food girl. Ugh, probably KFC, but I'm gonna be honest with you, don't know if I've ever even eaten at KFC, and I've had Popeyes literally once in my life and was just not impressed. So I guess I'm picking
Oh, my
KFC.
goodness. Oh,
But
my
yeah,
Lord.
I'm sorry, I'm just not really a fast food girl. So I
That,
mean, if anything,
that,
it's McDonald's, because
that,
I'll take their chicken nuggets any day of the week, but or
okay.
Chick-fil-A. So
Okay. Now, okay.
I'm veering off. I'm sorry.
You
I'm
back
veering
in
off
good
to this
graces.
or that.
You back in good graces now. You said Chick-fil-A. I think Chick-fil-A is the obvious answer for everybody, but that's why I asked about those two different ones because you can't go wrong with Chick-fil-A. Okay. Do you at least eat chicken wings? Have you
Yes.
ate? Okay, here we go. So, which flavors I should say, barbecue or lemon pepper?
Ooh, probably lemon pepper. I don't do anything spicy at all. I literally have the
Yeah,
spice tolerance of a child.
yeah.
So I feel like I veer more towards like the garlic parms, lemon peppers of the world.
I like that. Do you Do you like your wings wet or dry?
From a messiness perspective, dry. I don't like my hands getting all gross.
I like that. Okay. So, do you like your wings bone in or boneless?
Definitely boneless. I mean, they're like little chicken nuggets at that point, so
Okay.
just easier
Yeah.
to
I
manage.
I kind of figured that when you said you didn't want to get messy, I was like, yeah, hell no, she's not picking bone in. That's for sure. Okay. I'm totally
I
with you.
will eat them though. I mean that there's no denying. I will eat them. I just
Okay. I got you. I got you. Now, these next four have to do with music, concerts you rather attend.
okay.
Okay. So here's the first one. Which concert would you rather go to? Would you rather go see Blink 182 or would you rather go see Breaking Benjamin?
Oh man, I'm not gonna lie. I'm sometimes extremely musically illiterate, so I can't really name as many songs by either of those groups, but probably I would know more by 182. My dad
Okay.
actually, we just for his birthday, we bought him tickets to see Blink 182. So
That's pretty awesome.
loved
That's
it.
pretty
So
awesome.
I'll go
Mm.
Blink 182.
Okay. Here we go. Which music concert would you rather go to? Kendrick Lamar or Drake?
Oh gosh, that's so like tense, but Drake,
It is tense. It is tense. So you said who?
Drake.
Okay. Okay, Drizzy. Listen. I love both. Don't get me wrong. K Dot is really good. Drizzy is good too. So I would choose K Dot, but it'd be really close. It'd be really close
I think I've
between them.
actually gone to a Kendrick Lamar concert now that we mention it. PNC down in New Jersey. It was like an outdoor venue. They had a lot of really random people that came and played, but they were more
Hmm.
like social events. Like you went to socialize more than listen to the music, but I'm pretty sure that Kendrick Lamar performed at one of them. So I've
Okay,
actually
I'm with
been to a
you.
Kendrick Lamar concert in my life.
That is pretty awesome. I love to hear that. Okay, which music artist would you rather listen to? Would you rather listen to Luke Combs or Morgan Wallen?
Oh God, I don't do country at all. I'm not even
Oh,
gonna
oh,
deny that.
I'm,
So
I'm with you. I'm with you on that. Here we go. Because
I'm
I
gonna
rarely
guess
do.
Morgan Wallen, I guess. I mean, again, that's another one where I'm like, I don't really know how many songs I could name by either of those people because I'm just really not a country girl. So
That's okay. We're gonna
maybe
pivot
Morgan
because
Wallen.
there is some people on this podcast that come on that don't do country at all. I do a little bit, but those two artists I definitely do, no question. Okay, here we go. Here's another one. Which artist would you rather go see in concert? Chris Brown or Usher?
Usher.
Ooh, you did that real quick. That was the quickest one so far. You was just solidified on that. So you love you some Usher, huh? Okay.
I mean, I was very impressed with the halftime performance that he just gave. However, I'll say, like, again, I mean, I'm just making myself sound extremely musically illiterate. I would just like to say I know general pop music, but my
Mm,
majority of stuff that I listen to is 80s rock and Broadway music. I know,
wow.
really eclectically weird. So so my range of knowledge of music is not as strong. So I thought I knew more Usher, and then he performed at halftime, and I was like, I don't know as much Usher, but I can definitely tell you I know more Usher than I know Chris Brown. So we're going Usher.
Okay, so to that one, this last music one, which one would you rather listen to? Would you rather listen to Journey or Def Leppard?
Journey.
Mm, okay, I'm with you on that. I love me some Journey too. Definitely, big time Journey fan for
I
sure.
mean, Pour Some Sugar on Me always hits, but Journey has a better like collection of songs that I would bop to for sure.
I think the Any Way You Want It, that's the way you need it. That's
Yeah.
my favorite. That's my favorite of
Or even
theirs.
their like power belts with like open arms, and you're like, I'm so here for this. So
Absolutely, no question. Now you did say Broadway musical, Broadway shows, I should say. I'm a huge musical person. Don't know if you are or not, but I'm totally am. So I'm gonna throw a couple different musicals at you, and you choose me which one that you like. Okay.
Ooh.
So
Okay.
Phantom of the Opera or Rent.
Phantom.
Okay. Hairspray or Annie.
Hairspray.
Okay. Wicked or Hamilton.
That one is tough.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
I think it's gonna be Wicked.
You sure?
I mean, I watched Hamilton too many times. Like when they released it on Disney Plus to see
Mm,
the stage version with the original Broadway cast, I watched
yep.
that far too many times than I'd rather admit. However, I've not personally seen it on stage yet, where I've seen Wicked 3 times on stage, and every time I'm still like, all these songs are great. I love the story. I feel like I take something new from it. The costuming's amazing. So I think it's still gonna have to be Wicked. Excited for the movie,
Wicked.
I will say, but I'm slightly skeptical, but I'm excited.
Wicked is definitely my top three. No question about that. And I am excited to see the movie with Ariana Grande and everybody else. I'm excited for sure. Last one of the musicals, Mamma Mia or The Greatest Showman.
Ooh. I would say The Greatest Showman. I think the
Mm.
story is like more interesting. Don't get me wrong, I can bop to some ABBA, but probably the greatest.
Who can't, right? Who
Oh,
cannot bop this ABBA, right? I know that's right. Okay. Do you like desserts?
of course. Gotta
Okay, so
definitely have a sweet tooth.
I'm gonna throw four categories of desserts out at you. You get to choose one of these that you'll never eat again. Okay.
Okay.
So here we go. First one is cookies. The next one is candy. The next one is cake. The last one is ice cream. Which one are you getting rid of that you'll never eat again?
Cake.
Wow.
Yeah.
I, I
I
didn't see that.
uh
Oh,
I
I didn't see
definitely
that.
am like more of like sugar in small doses where you can also kind of choose how much you want. The other
Mm-hmm.
thing is like I just grew up and really didn't like love cake. I don't know why. I don't know what it was about cake, but I've just never really loved cake. I only have like this one person. Shout out to Sally Tracy Cakes. She's based in my hometown, and she's like the only cake I've ever truthfully enjoyed. But I think a huge part of it is like the frosting to cake ratio. I fall into that sweet tooth category of I definitely have one, but like frosting isn't it. If like there is just too much frosting on a cake, can't do it. I'd rather have more cake, less frosting. Because I'm like a muffin girl.
Okay.
Almost like I'd rather have a muffin than a cupcake if you're gonna
I
like
feel you on that. I
douse
feel
the
you on it.
douse it really high in frosting.
Okay, I would have chose candy because red velvet cake is the best cake ever, in my opinion. But it's hard to get rid of them. These are hard decisions. Now, I'm gonna ask you, do you like potato chips?
Um, I'll eat them, but they're not my go-to snack. My go-to snack is pretzels.
I feel it. I feel okay. So here we go. I'm going to throw out four brands of
Okay.
potato chips. Okay, same format, and you got to choose one of these that you'll get rid of. So here we go. The first one is Lay's. The second one is Ruffles. The third one is Doritos. The last one is Pringles. Which one are you getting rid of that you'll never eat again?
Okay, the ultimate hot take, it's Doritos.
That's not bad. That's
I
not
think that
bad.
I feel like that would get a lot of heat. My boyfriend loves Doritos, so he always rips on me because he's like, "Have you ever eaten a Dorito?" And the answer is yes, I've eaten a Dorito. That would not be that's not a lie. However, I'm definitely like more of a traditional potato chip person. And even though like Lay's are kind, I mean, Pringles are kind of weird because I'll admit I've had a Pringle once or twice in my life and they are kind of weird, but I still would take a Pringle over like a Dorito just because I don't really like, again, the hot flavor, which I'm terrible about, but the one that comes in the red bag, but even the Cool Ranch, I'm kind of like, it's just too much going on flavor wise. I'm a plain Jane in the end, so
I
rather just
feel it.
take
I
a plain
probably
potato chip.
okay, plain potato chip. I probably would have got rid of the Lay's because even though the Lay's have a lot of different flavors, salt and vinegar is just a terrible flavor. That's just the second worst chip ever, to be honest with you. In my opinion. Um, and people ask me, well, what's the first worst? I was like, Funyuns. Whoever in God's name made Funyuns needs to just be slapped with the black and the white hand, black side and white side of my hand, both, because they're just terrible. They're awful. I don't know if you think that, but that's just my opinion.
I don't like onions in general. Can't say that I've necessarily ever had a Funyun, but I definitely am not picking up a Funyun, let me tell you.
There you go. So we are in sync. That's for sure. Okay, I like that. I like the fact that you did pretty good on this or that. You were very decisive, Nicole. Very decisive. I like that. I like that
Yeah,
very much.
I
Most
know what I
people are
like.
not, to be honest with you. When I do that, most people are not decisive. They're like, oh man, they're so hard. You're decisive. I love it. And we're gonna continue moving forward. Here we go. This next question has to do with if you wasn't in sports or journalism, what career path would you have chosen to do and why?
Okay, so I actually have a backup career option because truthfully, I feel like all people in TV should have something else they know they'd want to do. Because let's be real, like
Absolutely.
it's not always the most sustainable for life. And you can have amazing 40-year careers, 50-year careers in television, but I do think especially for women, if you know that you've wanted to have a family, working nights isn't always like the easiest. And I definitely fall in that bucket. I've always known I've wanted to have a family. So I'd love to be able to balance what I currently do with that. But I also know that that might not be sustainable. So I
Okay.
dual majored in college between broadcast journalism and Spanish. And my backup one has always been to be a Spanish teacher. I had the most amazing Spanish teachers growing up. I'm nearly fluent in Spanish. As we mentioned, I went to Santiago in Ecuador to study abroad. I also went to Spain when I was in high school for study abroad on like a short trip. So I love, I mean, my Spanish is probably a little bit rustier than it would need to be a Spanish teacher in this exact moment. However,
Mm,
I feel like I've never really lost it. And yeah, I've just had the best Spanish teachers ever. They just made class so much fun, learning about culture, but also like learning a language. And
absolutely.
language came pretty easy to me. So it's definitely a Spanish teacher. Middle school, probably. I don't know if I could do high school level. Not being a native speaker, I feel like all the Spanish teachers I had in at the high school level were all native speakers, and I feel like that's necessary. But I feel like at the middle school level, you
Hmm.
can kind of be not a native speaker. So I definitely think that, yeah, that's my backup for sure. And definitely something I would love to pursue, is being.
Absolutely. I'm definitely currently getting my master's in professional writing. I'll have my master's completed this next upcoming May because I definitely want to do
Congratulations.
thank you so much, Nicole. I definitely want to do teaching as well. I thought about maybe doing interviewing as a class of teaching. I think I can be pretty good in that and teaching others how to do that. But if I went through the lower level, definitely math. Something I can definitely do on the lower level as well. Pretty good. So I wouldn't mind doing that. I know a little bit of Spanish myself speaking. I wouldn't say I'm bilingual, but hola, ¿cómo estás? If I say that to you, what would you say?
Bien. ¿Y tú?
Igualmente.
Ah, qué bueno.
There you go. So okay, we got a little bit going. Okay, I like that. I
Yeah.
like it. I like it. See, I'm very basic. I'm very basic with
It
my
actually
Spanish.
caught a lot of people off guard because my original reel that I submitted out of college to jobs, my third stand up in my reel in my montage was in
Mhm.
Spanish. And everybody was like, "What the heck?" But actually, Syracuse has the only Spanish newscast produced at a student station in
Mm.
the entire country. And from the jump, I became a part of it. It's called noticias. Shocking. That's the word for news in Spanish. So
Right.
I became a part of that from the get-go. And yeah, I got to do sports in Spanish. I did weather once in Spanish, which was terrifying. Because obviously we know weather doesn't use a prompter. And so it was just like, ooh, we're flying blind with how much knowledge I
Mhm.
know about weather.
Right.
Anchor it a couple times, produced it, so did a lot of writing. But yeah, so it really caught people off guard that they're like, you can speak Spanish? And I'm like, yes, I can speak Spanish.
That's
So
awesome.
it's
I
like that
love
like
that.
bag of tricks party trick is that you can just like dip into Spanish and just go on like a tangent. And definitely let it slip into my life in really random places when I just like want to ramble aloud, but don't want people to like know exactly what I'm saying. So
Well, that definitely works, especially here in the US for sure. No question.
the other
Let
weird
me
thing about that career path question is that I loved math and science growing up since you mentioned math. And everyone thinks that's the weirdest thing because they're like, why would you go into an industry that's mainly like writing and creative if you like loved math and science? But I'm like, you can still have passions. You can still just, I was,
mm,
yeah, just really good at math and science. It came easily. I liked the sense that there's a concrete answer, but it was just one of those things that no, I like knew that I wanted to go more in a route of pursuing passion than just what I was
right,
good at, where like
right.
maybe I'd be stuck in a lab all day. That was just
Absolutely. Absolutely. And definitely my math would definitely be elementary to middle. Maybe some high school, but definitely not calculus or definitely not that calculus 1, 2 or something like that. No. We probably can get to college algebra. as best as
Yeah.
we can possibly get, and maybe and below pre-algebra, geometry, stuff like that. Oh, we'll rock that. We can definitely teach that. But
I was gonna say algebra definitely like don't need much brushing up on, but yes, if I was to teach calculus or pre-calc or anything, it would definitely need some definitely need some refreshers for sure.
yeah, need some, as the Migos would say, I would need some straight. There's no question about that. Okay. Let me ask you about the top four. Top four events that you would like to cover in your journalistic career. I'll give you a prime example for me. One is Super Bowl. Two, no particular order. Olympics 28, which is coming up in Los Angeles, which is my hometown state. That would be amazing. Another one would be a national championship game. Basketball or football. And the last one will be NBA Finals because I love basketball to the core. What would be a top four events for you to cover?
Probably similar. Olympics is by far the number one. I like have always thought that covering the Olympics would be amazing. I've even said I'm like if I'm not covering it in some capacity, I'm just going in 2028. I mean, if they're
Absolutely.
here, how could you not? So,
Right.
and lacrosse will make its debut again. If you can't tell that I'm a little lacrosse obsessed. Not sure what's
Absolutely. I
coming
love
through on
it.
the podcast, but it's making its debut in the Olympics in 2028. So very excited.
It's awesome. I love
Um,
that.
so definitely Olympics is number one. I think like Super Bowl has to be up there for sure.
Mhm.
Definitely like I would be pretty open to like any national championship, but definitely like I just think bowl games as a whole. Like I got to go to the Arizona Bowl for Toledo last year, and even though that was like, much more of a minor bowl, I think that like pretty much any bowl game would be cool, but definitely like doing the Rose Bowl or like, any of the national championships for football for sure
Yeah.
would have to be up there. And then I mean, I'd probably be lying if I didn't say like some kind of like lacrosse event. I mean, covering like a high scale lacrosse event just because like I'm so passionate about the sport. So, and I got to do a lot of coverage of it in college, but like I got to go to the US lacrosse headquarters when a game was played there that I got to cover. So that was very cool. But it being a niche sport, like I'd love to be able to be there on like Memorial Day weekend, which is when they play the national championship and like cover it when they're either like in Philly or in Connecticut or in Boston, which I know is niche, but like lacrosse is my thing. So if I like, got to, I mean, if there was wide scale, like being a lacrosse reporter full time, that probably would just be the dream job at this point because I just
I
love
love it. I
it.
love it. Now, what position did you play?
I played defense.
I see that. I can see you being
Yeah,
aggressive I can see you being aggressive on the field and stopping people from scoring the ball. I can see that.
exactly. Yeah, I definitely was that and definitely that energy. It was not like kind of like the quick, agile, willing to take the contact. I'd rather be the person that's like delivering the contact and being like trying to run through.
Oh, I could definitely see you out there giving blows. I love it though. I love it. That's what you got to do though. I mean, you gotta have that person on the team that's a rough rider, right? Because you got a lot of people that run around, shoot that ball, but you need defense. Defense wins championships. So I love that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, that's pretty cool. I like that list. Advice. What is some advice that someone has gave you? We talked about advice that we would give others, and kind of in that sense. But what is some advice someone has gave you that you hold on dearly to?
Hmm. Advice that someone has given me that I hold on dearly to.
Yeah.
I mean, that's tough because that can be extrapolated in so many different ways. Like, there's obviously like personal advice that I've received that has helped me grow as a person, but I'm assuming we're leaning more like professional advice.
It
And
could
the
be
one that
both.
I would always say is a piece of advice that I received, because this industry is hard and every job has different opportunities, good and bad, and things that you're gonna like and things you're not.
Yep.
Something that I like learned as a piece of advice was like never say no until you have to. It sounds
Mm,
odd advice, but it's like welcome every opportunity that comes your way. Somebody reaches out to you about a job and is like, maybe I think you'd be interested or qualified for this. Like, apply, toss your hat in the ring because you never know where things will lead. And don't say no until you have to. Like, give every opportunity its due chance. And then, like, when it comes time for either them to say no to you because you weren't the good fit, or like you get like obviously the best situations in this industry are obviously when you have the power and you can finally be the one that's like, nope, this isn't what I thought it was going to be, or nope, they're not paying me what I thought I deserve, or nope, like whatever your no is, but like don't say no until you have to.
mhm.
And I think that that's been like really valuable advice because it helps you stay open-minded to any opportunity. Like I would have never picked Toledo. I don't even know if I could have picked where Toledo was on the map when I first like thought about moving here. I
Right.
funny story, like BCSN stands for, in real words, Buckeye Country Sports Network. And when I first applied, I thought it was an Ohio State thing because you think like Buckeye, Ohio
Yep.
State. It is
Yep.
not. It's in Toledo, Ohio. So that's always my funny joke that I tell about this job. And like I would have never picked Nebraska. I'd never even been to the Midwest before I moved there. But and again, that role especially was half and half of news and sports. And I knew I only wanted to do sports, but I have enough of a passion for storytelling, news, things that are important that
Absolutely.
I said, I'll, listen until there's something I have to say no to. And, and then that's also steered me away from jobs that I thought I might have wanted. I mean, I had a great gig that was offered to me right out of essentially coming out of Nebraska that wouldn't have been in traditional TV. And, I listened to their pitch and I went down there and it was so different. Like it was different, but it wasn't. And then in the end, like it kind of was the phrase of like it was working more internally on a college side. And it was that
Hmm.
phrase of like, oh, well, we don't acknowledge that losses exist. That just like went against my journalistic nature of being. I was just like, that's weird. Like if you're going to be
Right.
covering teams or talking about teams, like, and you're internal, I understand you want to be more of promotional of the win, but like you can't just like say like the loss didn't happen.
Right. You
That's
can't
just
ignore the result.
yeah.
What?
So that kind of was like a deal breaker among other things, and I just ended up saying no. But
Absolutely.
in the half and half role, I was just like I heard enough that how I'd be involved in coverage of sports that I knew I could make opportunities through it. So that's why I never said no when I took that job. So that's, I guess,
Absolutely.
my when it comes to job search, because I feel like that's some of the hardest parts of this job is just when you want to search for that next opportunity, how do you find what's right? Is like, don't be, you know, don't say no until you have to. You feel like you have to. So that would
Mhm.
probably be one of my best pieces of advice.
I do. I think that's a great piece of advice. Definitely. Especially when you're starting out. When you're starting out, you're like, when it comes to finding jobs, just see what it is. Like you did. You did a trial period, right? You went down there, you heard their pitch, and then you think about it, and then you make a decisive decision. Same with when you're in a job, right? You're always saying yes to everything when you start out because you kind of improve it mode. You want to prove yourself. You want to be that reliable person. But again, it comes to a point where don't have to say no when you absolutely have to. When you feel like that this is the time where it's like you can't do it, then go ahead and say no. So I definitely totally understand that. Especially with people in contract situations. Me, I worked with different publications. I worked with a few different publications. So when you're in a publication role, in a print role predominantly, you don't have contracts like that. So it's not contracts that you're signing like 2 years or 3 years, stuff like that. It's just one of those things where, okay, you give the proper 2 week notice and you continue to move on. But when you're in stations and you're working with different, stuff like that, you are in contracts, and sometimes it's hard to get out. It's hard to get out of those contracts. So you definitely want to be decisive before you take that job, without question. So I love that advice, Nicole. I really do.
Yes, and I think that's where, like, as you kind of mentioned with career advice, and we were talking earlier, on that first job, yes, you got to be a little bit more open to almost anything because you never know
Sure.
those opportunities that'll come along and how many opportunities will come along when you're like a fresh budding journalist out of school. And then I
Right.
think as you go along with each step, like, yes, you can be a little bit more decisive of like, I'm not giving up this or I'm not giving up that.
Right.
About like what I want to do because you have a
Absolutely.
little bit more cards to play with the experience that you have on your resume
Mhm.
and the experience that you'll have on your reel. Like you'll look stronger than just a college kid. So I think that there's like a balancing act to that. But again, I think it's just like remain open-minded to any opportunity because you never know like what you'll find in an opportunity that you're like, you know what, this is super cool, or you know what, like this wasn't what I was expecting at all, but I'm like pleasantly surprised. So just staying in
Sure.
like a good mindset of staying open-minded.
I love that. I do. Nicole, this has been a pretty dope conversation, getting to know you and your journey from attending Chatham High School in New Jersey, all the way to now being able to go from Nebraska to now Ohio, doing your thing as an anchor and an MMJ, and being able to just hear your side of the story of how you came into it, right? And it just seems like it's your family's super supportive of you, but you've also fed off of their love for sports and turned it into your own love, and obviously loving lacrosse and playing lacrosse at a high level as well. I just love the fact of getting to know you on here, and I really do appreciate your time, as I always do with every guest that I have on here. The final question is there anything else you would like to add about yourself, the job, the industry before we conclude?
Hmm. I don't think so. I mean, I think that we covered a lot, and I think that, we were able to talk about like a lot of the best advice. I mean, I would just have to say I got to give a shout out at least to like one of my main mentors who came from college, Professor Rose. He was Professor Les Rose. He was amazing. Syracuse's professors are all people that just came from the industry. And specifically for him, he was Steve Hartman's photog for like 30 years, for like On the Road with Steve Hartman. He was the guy that shot all of those. So talk
Oh,
about someone
okay.
that you're like, wow, that's so cool, real life experience. But then secondarily, like he was just such a quirky dude, but had like some of the best just advice on how to be like a good journalist, and not necessarily from the like story searching or news judgment side, but just from the like technically how to be a good journalist and tell well shot stories with sequences and how to make your interviews look good and like those kind of like small things that really can like make or break a story. And for that, I'm like forever grateful. And he's always, I feel like, been in my corner as someone like cheering me on no matter where I've stopped along the road. I make sure I get back to Syracuse to visit him, just because he's been just so impactful in my life. So definitely like have to give a shout out to him. Shout out to Professor Rose for sure,
All
because
right. Professor
he's like
Rose.
the
I love
original
that.
mentor that, definitely helped guide me the most. So
Well, definitely shout out to him. That's awesome that you said that. Well said. And I want you to enjoy the rest of your Tuesday and the rest of your week. And you and I will definitely be in touch. Take care, Nicole.
thanks.